From Benjamin, I am 20 years old and an aspiring writer. I'm taking a few creative writing classes in college, but I do not know what my next step should be. Is there any sort of apprenticeship or internship I could apply for? Thank you so much for considering my question. I've been a subscriber and daily listener for a really long time. You and Ben are the only people keeping me sane in this political environment right now. I can understand that, I mean, when you watch TV, you sit there and you go like, this is like a fantasy. And there's so much of it that even I occasionally get tempted to think like, is it me? Is it, am I wrong? And then you kind of go back and read the Constitution, the Bible, and think, oh no, it's them. It's always them. Writing, being an aspiring writer, I always say writing is a great job, but a tough profession. It's wonderful to do, but it is a very difficult profession, and it has gotten in some ways more difficult, in some ways easier. It's gotten more difficult because there's just so much material, and there's so many people who want to spread your material around without paying you. So a lot of people want eyes, and they'll say, I'll do anything to get eyes on my work, but they don't take pay. And of course, I'm a professional writer, and I always, people write to me all the time and say, will you write for my site? And I say, well, what do you pay? And they say, well, we don't pay, but we have millions of subscribers. And I say, I'm a professional writer. Professional means you get paid for what you do. That's why people do things professionally. It's their living. So it's gotten very difficult in that way. Here's the advice I give to writers. Read everything. I mean, read everything in your field. If you want to be a novelist, read every novel you can get your hands on. And I don't mean just the one that was written last week. I mean Dickens, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky. Read all the greats. If you're in a different field, read that stuff. Really know what you're doing. Secondly, and even this should be firstly, really, learn grammar. Because I get so many letters from writers who say, I would like to be a writer, and there's grammatical errors in their letter. And you think like, if a carpenter showed up at my house with a hammer and he said, do you know how to use this thing? He's holding the wrong end of the hammer and he's hitting it with it. I would just say, get out, you're fired. The same thing with writers. These are your tools. Words are your tools. Grammar is your tools. You can only break the rules if you know what they are. What to do professionally? Well, I believe I did everything wrong professionally. And, I managed to get here through sheer grit and luck and determination, But I do think it's good to find a mentor if you can, a really good mentor. I do think it's good to find an internship with magazines. It depends what kind of writing you want to do. There's no internship for fiction. These classes that people take, I don't know I never took one. I don't know how helpful they are. I suppose it's helpful to discuss to get readings from other people, I think is always helpful. But I think that if you can get an internship on a magazine, if you want to be a journalist or a newspaper, I think that's great. And I think that the thing that helps writers, that helped me as a writer more than anything, was a job I had writing news, because I had to hit deadlines every minute almost. There were 4 televisions going on at the same time. There was a radio playing. In those days, there were teletypes, which had this amazingly loud pounding noise. In this newsroom, I think there were 4 teletypes going, and you had to write really well while all that was going on. So now when I sit in my workshop and maybe I hear a leaf blower down the street, it's like, dude, you don't know who you'd have to bomb my workshop before you could disturb me. So those are my pieces of advice. It is a tough job. I got a letter from somebody who got a rejection the other day, and they were brokenhearted. And I said, there's a wonderful scene in Lawrence of Arabia, the movie Lawrence of Arabia, where Lawrence lights a match and lets it burn down to his fingers, past his fingers. And the guy watching him says, what's the trick? And Lawrence says, the trick is not minding that it hurts. And that is the way you have to deal with rejection in the writing game. The trick is not minding that it hurts. So it's a tough profession, and if you follow my mother's advice, you'll become a lawyer and do it in your spare time. I never did. All right.